I'm a little impressed, Mr. Bitcoin, for you had this pattern, which I talked about in the crypto day morning, about the failed move. Oh, it looked in here as if it was ready to break down. Not so quite. It's resisted here amongst the 18, and, well, it hasn't broken out yet, but hasn't fallen either at the same time. So it's just hanging in there, but definitely reducing the odds to which the price target of 3,700 will be coming soon. But regardless of the fact, you break down below here, we'll probably go to about there, and then breaking out above and resistance test at 4102. Welcome, as it is the 22nd of December 2018. I'll bet trades of the like within each's own risk and their own reward. For myself, risk reward management is always job number one. When we move this on to the 15-minute, there's that little resistance move at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Since then, it has been just riding the 18 average of highs. So maintaining this move overall, it's all short-term whatever nonsense, unless, of course, you're a short-term trader, and some of you are. So I'm just going to conclude Bitcoin at such. I'm going to quickly move on to hockey, then move on to some altcoins, and the hockey content will be quick. I made two calls earlier. One was on the Columbus-Philadelphia game under the total. Late in the first, it's 1-0, and late in the first in Boston-Nashville under the total again. It's 1-0, so decent starts to go through. And just a few more games worth note that I'm looking at. I'm not going to do another video, so check the comments section below closer to 5 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time for more analysis, but most likely I'm waiting on live lines for this one. And if I can get a chance in the first period or second period to take the Leafs, I'll do so. The Rangers are very good in the first, compared to how bad they are in the first period. And I'll be looking for them to really struggle later in the game. And I'll be looking to play Toronto. Within Washington and Ottawa, let me just move this so you can see it. Within Washington, Ottawa, nothing much going on there. Dallas, Minnesota, I'm not going to make a play on that game. At least I don't think so. I might still, but unless I'll do some more work along the way. Pittsburgh and Carolina, it's almost a game. Gimme. I'll be playing the money line on the Pittsburgh Penguins in this game. And as would be the case, I'll probably even lay a goal with Winnipeg against Vancouver. That's where I'll most likely be at, and I can't touch this Edmonton-Tampa game at all. So that would be the hockey analysis for today. Again, if you're interested in selections, check back, or if it is already that time, but between after 4 p.m., 5 p.m. Eastern Time, I'll put in the more information box what I like for tonight. Let's move on next to Steam, crossed against Bitcoin, and within this chart here, obviously big move today, as we are up about 16 2/3%. 18 average flattened out. Obviously resistance has been established along the way. This move happening very, very fast over the last several amount of days. 18 average of lows has been magnificent support. Got above this level of resistance in here, but it barely broke out. However, it's successfully supported, and now it's definitely broke out very nicely ever since amongst the 15-minute time. It got going at around 11 o'clock. It did so for about an hour, so 11 o'clock hour period. It has corrected very nicely this far because it hasn't given that much of it back, at least as of yet. Will it be able to hold it, have another leg higher? Possibly. 5-minute term time frame. It's just establishing, of course, the range-bound market, giving it time to just settle in within the 18. Whenever that's the case, resistance will always be established as well. It was first established amongst this leg at around 850 to 848. This little move here increased it to 852. So 850 or so is established resistance, which brings us to the current high in the day, which is at the 881 handle. Of course, getting above that 881 handle, we're talking about possibly, well, definitely a higher level, but what do we got here? Support at about 1100. And that would be, I would consider the area of the next move, maybe even closer to 12. And that's actually 12,000, I believe. as I think this is a 7-digit decimal. Some of the coins on Binance use a 7 or 6 or 8 decimal system. Litecoin I think uses like a 5. But yeah, that's Steam. Let's move on to the next one. VeChain will be that. I was meant this VeChain and Neil were two from comments, so let's take a look at them. And after the continuous, and I really do mean continuous down move from the levels back in September, going from the handle of well 270 almost down to about 100, now at 116. High volatility, of course, weekly term time frame. This is a market that went straight down, had its rally up from 100 up to 260, back to where it came from. Bear market rally could easily still come up to like 160 or even 195, but the bear market rally is going to happen when it's ready. The question is it going to be the daily chart? The possibilities are there, because what are we seeing? Over the last 5 periods since this green candle up, it's just consolidating amongst the 18 average of highs. The 18 average of highs is barely rising, unlike the lows at this point, but that would be happening soon as long as the price can maintain above about the 112 handle. However, we take a look at this on a more shorter term level. In the 4-hour, we can see here that this multiple hit resistance point at 116. It was hit at 1500 hours on December 17th. It was hit again on December the 19th and close to it on the 18th. Successful support on the 20th at around the 110 mark. I like how this period here at the 7 o'clock timestamp yesterday, how it got above this level, and it's just holding, congesting around this resistance area right now. So it does look as if this might be ready to get going. And I always talk about getting above or starting momentum above a certain level. Well, it's already done that. So if you were to say go long in here because you're like, oh, I like how it's going. Well, now, is there anything that's happened to say that you should be getting out at a loss? And the answer is no, because this uptrend's holding. 18 average is still coming into play, or holding as well. So until you see evidence that something like this is like any chart. If you're trying to go long and you're waiting to, and it's just, I know it sucks for me just having to go long on something and then you see something starting to break down, or you just don't have the patience for it because maybe it was a couple days ago or maybe a day ago you get into it here. But if you see something like this, you got a target area. I see it's breaking through. If this thing gets up to say whatever, you know you can get gains of decent amount. And within risk reward management, if we go back to the 4-hour would be best for this. If we go back to this here, if you were to go long, say at 117 and put a stop at around the, say, like even like 107, and that's pretty deep down here, let alone around 111. You look at the risk reward management. If I'm risking 6% going down, you have the opportunity to play for 20, 30, 40% gains and even higher. So if you continuously were to play a strategy where you're risking 7% to win like maybe a 30% average, if you're right 40% of the time, you're profiting. Okay, let's move on to NEO next. And we'll start within its daily chart. And I got this line, I don't remember when I drew it in, but it obviously represents this level of support, which has now been resistance on several occasions. It meets this low here at the early parts of December the 7th, and around the 17 handle. And then for 2 days on the 8th and the 9th, it came up to this 1869 point where it supported it several days, November 20th through the 27th. And it pulled back, but it managed to pull back without breaking a new low. So definitely, as it was leaving on December the 11th, there was definite reason to be concerned on a bullish level. And if you're in a situation, say when you're shorting something, I would have to think this is where a stop area would be, somewhere near above that line, because this downtrend hasn't done anything to get destroyed. It's gotten very neutral. But the fact that it didn't go down here, where you could say it probably should have, especially after December the 12th, when it rallied up, it came back down, another pause day, and then on the 17th, it has this rally to the 18 highs, pause day doing nothing, then comes back down to the low where it comes from. Short-term resistance now being support. So it's just holding in there within. So now I got a range mainly between 60 and 85, and then this 18 and 2/3 mark. It's got to break it to one side or another. Until then, the 18 average is just going to remain sideways, obviously. But in the pattern of how markets can change over, you see a water slide type of a fall within this. Now it's going sideways. You break above a 1900 or the 2000 handle, 20,000 Satoshi, whichever number. Actually, it's 200,000. This is a 6-digit decimal. But if it breaks over the 20 handle, even like 1950, then it's making a statement that it's going to look to make some look for some good gains. There's not much going on here in the 4-hour, not much to the degree here. It was looking pretty decent, but after this red candle down doing nothing, this is just becoming very neutral. And then amongst the weekly term time frame, we can see it's been down quite a bit since the 2018 highs, going from 145 to, or 1450 even, to about 168. All it's done is it's lost about 90% of its value from its 2018 highs to its lows. So this goes in the category of high volatility, high risk, high reward. And within such, having this thing do a 10, 20, 30, 40, 100x gain in the future, I mean, I did a video recently called the 40 fold dash. Not the 40-yard dash, meaning coins that have gone up 40-fold or higher. And there was a lot of them. And I wouldn't be surprised if we're going to have that happen again, where a lot of coins have multiple large X gains. And it wouldn't be a surprise if NEO is part of that list when that situation occurs. Okay, now let's move on to No Limit Coin 2, which has been staying above a nicely rising 18 average for quite some time. It hasn't even touched it yet, which means I haven't got any buybacks, which is fine, since it broke this resistance. When it originally went up, I was looking to buy back near the 18 average of lows. I've been looking to buy back at the 18 the whole time, and now even deeper within such. But it looks like it might be even ready to continue moving towards the upside. What we can see within the last 4 periods, including the one current, is you have this high, and then 2 pause ones supporting this level of resistance. We can see within this current move that it already attempted to break higher, but looking to resist right now where it came from, because it was piercing above this low. Now it has gone back, but it's obviously got to be now supporting this level of resistance. So it's one of those either or failed breakouts, and it's going to come down probably at least down to 220-ish or 240 area. Or you come up to this level, find support, then when you go back, you're almost certainly going to break it. Well, when I say certainly, usually more times than not. And within this chart, I can totally see that. So let me just do this, and do that. Because it's coming from a beautiful uptrend. Let's put a horizontal ray in at previous high. There we go. Obviously a big miss here. But what has happened is we had great support here. Now we're supporting the 18. If it can continue to do such and hold above what looks to be around 295, hold this little area here. If you get momentum from this point on, where you have this high, this low, with everything like that from before, then you have to say to yourself, how smart is it to sell here? Or another way of putting it, what's the chances if it breaks out here, this is the area it would top? I don't think so. I'd have to say at least a good size move in here. And when the overall stature within these coins, and I'm not going to show the long-term chart on here simply because I don't have it, but when I got into this, it would have been in the end of the spring or summer, probably late spring, early summer of 2017. I bought this at around 2,000 Satoshi, 1,600 to 2,000 Satoshi. Now it's at 300. It went well over 10,000, and now it's pulled back to 150 up to 300. So as far as, like, if you're looking for coins that have potentially large gains, then you can have it. And if you like to play poker, they have a website where you can transfer your NLC to, and you can play poker. And if you like to play fantasy, I mean, I like the bigger games, and they don't have it compared to like the DraftKings, but you can still do such within that there. Let's take a look next at Ontology, ticker symbol ONT. And when I look at that ticker symbol, that's my province, Ontario. But we'll call it Ontology for this video. It's all about technical analysis. Steady decline down from this level in here. But this is obviously the first attempt in going above the 18 average since, well, back in August. It was a steady decline. Got above in here, corrected within the 18. This is where it had its shot to break above. Didn't do so. It still could correct in here, and then obviously when this red candle down move came, big concern. And when you see this in here, and when it was showing weakness at 29.21 and we're standing today at 1800, you really can't be surprised because it was giving you the analysis there for it to be weak. Yes, it did give the opportunity here, but this was a failed breakout. Came close to it here, came close to it here, but didn't break out above. And then when showing the 18 weakness here, well, it was just continuous down move. Since that point, we have our second attempt in breaking it. Originally resistance established here. Comes back to the band. Now it has, since this point, had another rally. And you can kind of barely notice it's a nice pierce above, which means you could have very easily bought in at this top because of such. And if that's the case, where would you want to exit out of a position for a loss? For if you did it anywhere in here where you're going to be in line with previous low in the 18 average, you risk selling near a low. Which is, again, not one of the many reasons I don't play that game of buying here, look to sell here, get out if it looks weak there. I very rarely ever do that, if ever at all. But I do now and then, so I can't say ever at all. But I guess that's what that term means. Within the 4-hour chart, there's the breakout. Correctionary move successful. It held and stayed above the 18 average of lows. Yes, it showed weakness and resistance and a lot of possibilities that this thing was going to maybe go down here. It never did such. In here, we come to this point, and above the this little area, great rally higher. So you see it leaving at 1772, then it rallies up to 1972-ish area. And a lot of little bit of correcting here and there, but we're in the 18 as it stands here. 18 average of lows is above, and in this above this level of resistance, so it could easily correct more and still keep a nice little bullish setup. But I like, as a trader, to see a little bit of congestion amongst this area for a little longer, maybe another 3 to 10 more periods, which would be within the next couple of days or so. And then with this resistance level being so strong, if it can find a way to get above it, then that would definitely give reason that we'd be ready for another, who knows how many legs higher from this point, given how beaten down it's been on the daily. Next up is Status, ticker symbol SNT. And it's been in a downtrend since November, after it really was neutral for more than anything. It had a major sideways range from 645 down to about 521 and even lower at 470 or so. Now currently at 457. But since this downtrend has been in place, 18 average was resistance at the highs on November 22nd, again on November 27th. And then from this fall, decent move below it, got up to the 18 average of highs on December 16th, enough to make the band flatten out. Stage 1. Stage 2, established a level of resistance that occurred yesterday, and it did so at the price point of 487, or yeah, basis points. I'm not too sure if it's, I guess it looks like 8 decimals from here, but I just care about the basis number. Whether it's 400, 4,000, or 40,000, it's all the same. I don't care if a stock, for example, is $1,000 like Amazon, or if it's $5. It just means I'm going to buy about 200 times more of a $5 stock than I would of a 1,000. Same thing on the Satoshi. I'm going to buy a lot more coins that are 450 Satoshi compared to 400,000 Satoshi. Anyway, so it had this move above, staying within it right now within the 18 average of highs, developing a nice little uptrend. Maybe it might want to grind its way higher as a possibility, but We look at this, say, 4-hour term. Well, I can draw a horizontal array roughly around here. This is where the 18 average of highs was. Had some little resistance amongst this area, so we've had support there. I'm now seeing the 5th period since, well, 4th since the red one, but with counting the red one here, 5 periods where it's staying below the 18 highs, but it's supporting the non-shown 18 average of closes, which is basically halfway in the middle of this band. So I see the strength in here. It's already had this resistance, these resistance hits in the past. This tells me that I like right now the probability odds that it's going to be good, and that if it does manage to make its way above this area, then that via the daily time frame would mean that, well, it can maybe start to fill some of this gap. And just because I can do it quickly now, I would expect this to hit a 61.8% Fibonacci level for a Fibonacci retracement on a good move. And this high is in at it's got 639, yeah. And this low is in at 409. So let's bring up my calculator that I made a while ago. It just does it faster than any other calculator that I have. It's this number divided by this number to the root of 0.618, multiply the number again, 409. And that number is 539 that I'm looking for. We'll also give a sidekick to 485. So 485, well, that's already hit it. Is this an exact hit? I mean, come on, 487. What are you doing piercing above 2 points over? And I'm sarcastic because Fibonacci just seems to work very well. So therefore, I'll be looking for a price objective to go to not 639, to 539. Which would meet up with this level here. So if it breaks that resistance, that's where I think it's going. It also means if you're long and you're looking for places to sell, well, 539 or so. At least that's what I'll be looking to do, or am doing if you put it in a present tense. Let's move on next to Populist, ticker symbol PT. And we can see in here the statement of getting out above it. It did a small statement in here, but this move, getting above the 18, is a better job than this was. It managed to before show stage 1, band flatten out. Stage 2, establish a level of resistance. Stage 3, boy, did it ever come back to the band. It attempted it here, didn't do it. Got up to above it here, didn't do it, and it fell. So as I've stated before, this is the situation here when it got to the high that I don't like. You're in a nice little uptrend. You had a key resistance point before. You come back, and then you have a nice move to it. Are we going to have a small retracement? And the small retracement would be to, like, say, well, in that case it would have been previous resistance at the 55, 53. Is it just going to break through? And then sometimes, again, you're going to have a move like this where you could just have a failed breakout, which was the case. It was a failed breakout. And if you were waiting for stage 4, break of established resistance, it never did it. So you never ever did make any long bet on that situation. And then now we have this established resistance. It's got to get above it now. It's showing some strength amongst the 18 average of highs. And thus, when I see that, it can still correct further down and still not lose the status of correctionary mode. So it could go down a bit, but I'd like to see any type of move get above it. And then when it does so, there's a good chance that maybe you could have at least one good leg higher. 24 minutes we're at, so let's just do a couple more charts and make it under 30 minutes. And now we got NEM. I talked about this, possible short candidates, or one that's starting to look weak, right down in here. Well, what's it done since? Well, it had a great rally yesterday and starting to pull back. It hasn't. If you're looking for any place where I think stops would come in, probably right now, decently above the 18 highs. So if you sell short here and you panic on this rally, I don't know what else to say at this point. But it does look like the possibility for this of a setup going short or predicting that it will go lower and hit like an area of around 16 basis points or go down well below this. When I say leg lower, I mean 1700 is too small. And that's why I'm looking around 1600. And I mean, that can go anywhere lower than that, but not usually you're going to get a massive move. More times than not, you're probably going to find at least a short-term bottom somewhere around this level. So a good setup is still in place. If this doesn't go through, and I see something in the near term where the 18 average is able to hold and it's able to find in the next couple of 3 days, get back up above in here. Well, I've seen good setups not play out and then a move in the opposite direction occur, and this possibly might be the case. And keyword is obviously that impossible, or possible rather, not impossible. But if it does in the next little while, since we've had this red candle down today, start to show great momentum above 1982 or around the high 19s over 2 or over the 2 number, then yeah, this thing I'll probably be looking good, because another way of looking at this is the time frames for like the like, we'll say like I don't have it, but the 2-day chart, there's going to be 18 averages that are going to be finding support like this right now. And thus, if another reasons why if it manages to make a move higher, it would look pretty good. But definitely be cautious because of the fact that on the move in here, December 19th, how it rallied up here and pulled back down below here and started to go lower. This was telling me a strong indication that it was going to go lower. It did reverse it this way. So within the next few days, I'm expecting that it's going to have a good break out of this range, which is in at between 1766 and about 1955. I'm going to think there's a good chance we're going to have a decent break either above or below at this point in the next little while. And again, because if this failed move doesn't go down, I usually see, okay, setup looks good. A few days later, just burst the other direction. Or setup looks good, it's either going to happen, and then maybe you get the spot where, okay, another resistance amongst the 18 average high, you leave the band in the next day or two, and then it just has the leg lower the next 2 or 3 days after that. So that's how I look at this particular chart. One more to finish this video, and that'll be LSK. This is a situation where we've had this established resistance back to this level of support. And now it's either going to be the failed breakout or the start of a new rally. This is stage number 2 in establishing resistance. This is stage number 3 in coming back to the correctionary move or the band. And it's 18 average of highs meeting up with the previous level of resistance here. So therefore, if it can successfully manage to support it, show momentum higher, this has great potential. But I've seen it on so many times before that when a market tries very hardly and very noticeably, like it is here, to break a trend and it fails upon such, and I use the 18 average of lows to tell me it's how it's doing on such. If it does that, you usually have a decent size break, and if it goes down below here, well, I don't have the further data. Let me just get that quickly. And within the Poloniex exchange, I can see that it's early 2017 lows coming from here up to there. Now this is a poor logarithmic chart, and this is at a very key Fibonacci level. 38.2% down from this high to this low. That worked out to 80,292, which was not support. At least it was barely support. It was on this, well, it was barely support, but it resisted it. The next key level after that going down 61.8%. That's in at 32,930. And Fibonacci, what are you doing? Let's just bring this back to the daily. Barely piercing below again. So this whole attempt to break the market out is doing so at a major Fibonacci point. So therefore, if I were to look to get into a position, would I do so now? At this point, yeah. Because it's pretty much at the fib point, and I realize the next key move is probably going to be up to this fib at 80, or we'll break down to a 76.4% down move, which would be where a buy order would come in. and that would be 18,972. Oftentimes I've seen spots like this and stating, okay, 61.8% hits pretty much perfect, and that was a key bottom, and then it would do its thing again later on with its next retracement at the 80. We'll see how it goes from this point on. But those are the mathematical numbers, and this is the video. Thank you for tuning in, and have yourself a great day and holiday. Bye-bye.